Forgot my microphone. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Appreciate you guys checking in, spending your Friday night with a brother. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are actually preparing for these big storms, no matter where you are. I hope you are preparing for these storms here that are coming. And I'm up in the upper Northeast, and it's supposed to get a lot of snow, but other places are supposed to get some heavy, heavy um, um sleet and ice. They're talking about 3 inches of ice, which is absolutely ridiculous. So make sure that you guys are preparing. Some people are getting their generators and stocking up on food. Some people are traveling. If y'all live in Texas, your senator Ted Cruz is leaving again. Listen, they keep doing this stuff. They keep doing this stuff. I'm talking about they being the politicians keep doing this stuff because you all don't vote them out. Ted Cruz is leaving. He got criticized for that for leaving before, and I don't know if his term was up in that particular time. If they got voted in again, you got to stop voting for these people. You got to hold them accountable. Ted Cruz, it's crazy, crazy. Just doing it again, leaving again. At least he's staying in the U.S. What I heard, at least he's staying in the U.S. this time. Before he went to Mexico, I believe he went to Mexico. This time, I think he's going to L.A. Or California, I should say. What's up, accidental hero? Appreciate you. Beautifully said. Welcome, welcome. Deborah Hutchinson, hello. All right, all right. Where y'all checking in from? I know I asked that a lot of times. I want to know, where y'all are from. That way we can, determine how many prayers we need, thoughts and prayers we need to send up for y'all. So I hit the store tonight. The only place that was busy was Costco's. I went to a couple of different stores. Costco's was busy. People stocking up on ice melter, I should say. Um, and well, I went to Home Depot to get my ice melter. I went to Costco to get some gas and make sure I had enough gas for my snowblower. And that parking lot was absolutely mobbed, absolutely mobbed. And then, of course, the line for gas at Costco was like that. Yeah, Minnesota, y'all used to this. I remember a friend of mine called me like it was like September. It was like late September, early October. He called me. He's like, "Yo, it's snowing like crazy here." I'm like, "What?" So yeah, New York, upstate or the city. All right, all right. So I got a pretty good show for us tonight, and I wanted to talk about this because this was already on my to-do list. And if you can tell by the thumbnail here, I'll get to it in a minute here. But this was on my to-do list, and then I watched a video with Grace Randolph, and I'll talk about who she is in a little bit here for anybody who's not familiar. But I wanted to take a look at movies and just determine, what's going on with that and how boys are affected by these movies. Again, I was at the movie theater the other day, and one of the commercials or advertisements for a new movie that was coming up, and it was the Mario Brothers 2. And of course, it was the Mario Brothers doing their thing, and then they had at the end of the clip, it had the princess. And if you played video games back in the days, right? So the Super Mario Brothers storyline was you had to save the princess. So now this princess was kicking butt and this, that, and the other. So men, and I think we're all struggling with this. I think that this is all a struggle for us as to where we're going, how we're going to be. And do women want to be saved? Do you want a masculine man? Do you want a protector, provider? What is it exactly that you're looking for? And men are struggling to figure that out. I think women are struggling to figure that out as well. Because if you're not going to save the princess, then what are you doing? Right. And if you can't translate that into your real life, then what are you doing? Same thing with comic books. And that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. So this is going to be a complete nerd out, geek out fest. So this show's for you. It's for you. If not, it's not. But we're going to take a look at some superhero movies and analyze this. And I want to know your thoughts and your opinions and all that kind of stuff. In the house and Dr. L in the ATL. You guys might get hit again, man. I hope you're really prepared for that. Talking about power out for weeks. So I hope you guys are really prepared for that. Salute Dr. L, Coach KL. Welcome, welcome. In the city. Okay, okay. Hello, I'm watching from Michigan. It's 0 degrees. Listen, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's cold out here too. It's like the temperature's dropping right now. So Y'all take care of yourselves, man. You all really take care of yourselves. Bring your pets in, all that kind of stuff, right? So also they have warming centers. We used to have warming centers, for people who were out there. 74 here in Central Florida. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I miss that weather. I miss that weather. I actually should have been down there. It's hard for me to go because somebody's got to take care of my house. I'm trying to work on the kids moving into my house when I'm gone. So that's a little bit of a problem for me. All right, so let's start this off with something. I was kind of surfing around here, and I wanted to talk about superhero movies and see what men, what boys think of them, and this, that, and the other. So I came across this article, and this is an article from 2010, 16 years ago. 16 years ago. So let's read through this article and why I tell you and I think about 16 years ago and think about what we're dealing with today. And I wish I could find a clip by a guy, Scott Galloway, who we talked about in this space before. I wish I could find the clip where Scott Galloway was talking about, how the ladies want a sensitive man, how the ladies want a sensitive man who's thought provoking and this and that. And then he leaned over in the interview and he said they would whisper to him, they being high-powered women themselves, would whisper to him, but I really want a manly man. Right? I really want a man who's really manly, who's out there, chopping wood and wearing plaid shirts and whatever else they would consider to be manly. So they talk about I want to be equal, I want this and that. And then they on the other side of their mouth, they're saying they still want a manly man who's a protector and provider who pays most of the bills. So this is a real problem that I think that a lot of people are struggling with, in particular ladies, to figure out what it is that they want and how it is they're going to get these types of things. So this is an article that comes from the American Psychological Association. Today's superheroes send wrong message to boys, say researchers. Okay. This comes from San Diego. Watching superheroes beat up villains may not be the best image for boys to see if society wants to promote kinder, less stereotypical male behaviors, according to psychologists who spoke Sunday at the 118th Annual Convention of American Psychological Association. There is a big difference in the movie superhero of today and the comic book hero of yesterday. I don't know what they're talking about. What are you talking about? So, psychologist Sharon Lamb, PhD, distinguished professor of mental health at University of Massachusetts, Boston. Today's superhero is too much like an action hero who participates in nonstop violence. He's aggressive, sarcastic, and rarely speaks to the virtue of doing good for humanity. What cartoons and or superhero or comic books is she talking about? Some of them are certainly sarcastic, but and I read through this article, and I don't know if they have a peer review paper we can link to, but I don't recall in this article her saying which superheroes she's exactly talking about. When not in superhero costume, these men, like Iron Man. Oh, okay. Well, here's one. I must have missed this before. Like Iron Man, exploit women, flaunt bling, and convey their manhood with high-powered guns. Okay. The comic book heroes of the past did fight criminals, she said, but these were heroes boys could look up to and learn from because of outside of their costumes. They were real people with real problems and many vulnerabilities, she said. To understand how the media and marketers package masculinity to boys, Lamb surveyed 674 boys aged 4 to 18, walked through malls and talked to sales clerks and came to understand what boys were reading and watching on television and at the movies. She and her co-authors found that marketers take advantage of boys' need to forge their identity in adolescence and sell them a narrow version of masculinity. But this narrow version of masculinity, according to Scott Galloway and others, is rejected by the girls of today, by the ladies of today. They want manly men. They want that. I thought someone was knocking on my window. I'm on the second floor. They can either be a player or a slacker. The guy who never even tries to save face, that's a slacker. In today's media, superheroes and slackers are the only two options boys have. said Lamb. Boys are told if you can't be a superhero, you can always be a slacker. Are boys being told that? Slackers are funny, but slackers are not what boys should strive to be. Slackers don't like school and they shirk responsibility. We wonder the messages boys get about saving face through glorified slacking could be affecting their performance in school. Oh, so it's not the feminized school system, it's the slacking that's going on in the superhero movies that they're watching or comic books that they're reading. Teaching boys early on to distance themselves from these images and encouraging them to find the lies in the messages can help. The problem is that they're not lies. The women like these types of images. They like those types of boys. It's not like the ladies are going after anything else. They talk about it. They say you should be like this, but do they really want that? Do they really want a man who can actually put down and hold up their masculinity? When you crowd out the other types of media messages, you promote stereotypes and limit their options. Boys seem better adjusted when they resist internalizing macho images, according to researchers who also presented at APA's convention. Researchers Carlos Santos, PhD of Arizona State, examined 426 middle school boys' ability to resist being emotionally stoic. You guys got to resist being emotionally stoic, autonomous, and physically tough. Got to resist that. That's what this PhD said. Stereotype images of masculinity in their relationships. He also looked at how this would affect psychological adjustment. Santos looked at whether boys could resist being tough, emotionally unavailable, and detached from their friends as they moved from sixth to eighth grade, whether ethnicity played a difference. And then they looked at a bunch of different ethnicities. I'm not going to read that. Boys from diverse ethnic and racial groups were equally able to resist these masculine stereotypes, going against the common belief that certain ethnic minority boys are emotionally stunted and hyper masculine, Santos said. Few differences were detected, and most tended to dissipate over the course of middle school. Boys are figuring themselves out. Boys are figuring themselves out. Sometimes they will, they're going to attach to different figures. We know this. They're going to attach to their parents. They're going to attach to friends, people they want to be like. They're going to go through these phases. Sometimes they're going to adopt the positive images of superhero movies. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't. He found that boys were more likely to act tough and detached from their friends as they got older, but boys who remained close to their mothers, siblings, and peers did not act as tough and were more emotionally available to their friends compared to those who were not as close. However, closeness to fathers encouraged boys to be more autonomous and detached from friendships. Also, it's the men's fault. It's the men's fault. You bring them up around fathers who have to go out into the real world, and now they're acting more autonomous and detached from friendships. I'm actually I know this is an old article, but I'm actually going to reach out to these two and see if they'll come on the show and talk about their findings. Maybe they've done some research in the meantime. But I thought this was interesting. I disagree wholeheartedly with their findings, but again, I want to link this to more academic research about this. So I'm going to reach out to these a couple of people here and try to review their evidence about what they're talking about here. So I want to start off with that. You greet some more people here. I'm Laren. If my power goes out, extra room ready. Okay, okay. Kamish, what's up, brother? My grandson already occupying. Grandma will love me and say I approve. Okay, okay. All right, here. Let's see. I don't know. Something happened to my settings here, and I'm not very happy about what happened here. I don't know how I adjust that. Anyway, all right. All right, so that's today's superhero movies. We'll take that down. All right, so I want to play something by I want to by Dr. Thunder. He was reviewing a video. So we'll do a quick review of his review of a video of the name of his segment here is comedian claps back against fake Christians, dating charts prove red pill, and
This is really interesting.
Hollywood no longer making movies for boys. So he's going to play a little bit of that. So we will get to it here. So we'll play a couple of minutes of this.
Boys deserve to be entertained. Modern Hollywood produces nothing special for them, and I'm going to explain that this isn't just due to ideology. There's something more fundamental and more disheartening going on. Firstly, we need to spell out what boys want and are missing out on. Boys are thrilled by the liminal territory of reaching for a higher branch, of attempting a skate trick just beyond their skills, some new sensation that is fueled with originality and risk. In entertainment, it is the same. They are magnetically drawn to content that is several years beyond their age, with violence and gore and suspense they're not sure they'll be able to handle. Stuff that might make them flinch or leave them reeling when they're trying to get to sleep. They love stuff that pushes those limits. Terminator 2. Non-stop adrenaline-fueled kinetic action, with an awesome robot chasing another awesome robot with shotgun twirls, motorbikes, a truck, a freeway obstacle course, and Guns N' Roses playing over the top.
Listen, boys love that kind of stuff. I loved it growing up. Loved it.
Matrix, where a hero was revealed as just a drone in a pod, his life force being harvested like millions more in a terrifying existential dystopian nightmare, who then gets cybernetic upgrades and uploads skill sets into his brain, like freebasing pure awesomeness. Can modern Hollywood produce any content like this that would viscerally appeal to boys? Fuck no. Boys are capable of aching yearning for films that strike surprising registers of sensitivity. Bastian Bucks, up in the school attic at night, reading the never-ending story. The sensitive boy in The Goonies, who speaks solemnly to the skeletons of the pirates. Elliot in E.T., born aloft, face pale in Halloween makeup, cycling by the light of a full moon. Can contemporary Hollywood produce content that strikes at these...
I want to pause there.
Halloween makeup, cycling by the light of a full moon. It's Elliot in E.T., born aloft.
What is going on here? How come I can't pause this here?
Firstly, we need to spell out what boys want and are missing out on. Boys are thrilled by the liminal territory of reaching for a higher branch, of attempting a skate trick just beyond their skills, some new sensation that is fueled with originality and risk. In entertainment, it is the same. They are magnetically drawn to content that is several years beyond their age.
I played all this. Why is this going backwards here?
Into his brain, like freebasing pure awesomeness. Can modern Hollywood produce any content like this that would viscerally appeal to boys? Fuck no. Boys are capable of aching yearning for films that strike surprising registers of sensitivity. Bastian Bucks, up in the school attic at night, reading the never-ending story. The sensitive boy in The Goonies, who speaks solemnly to the skeletons of the pirates. Elliot in E.T., born aloft, face pale in Halloween makeup, cycling by the light of a full moon.
Starfleet Academy. What is that? Fantastic Four, which was terrible. Terrible. The Electric, I didn't see that movie. I thought about it. The Last of Us, the first season was good. Everybody said the second season was terrible. And I played the video game, so I know how it ended. So I don't know why anybody was surprised, but I didn't see the movie. The Acolyte it's not as horrible as everybody said, but it wasn't good. And a couple of other movies there. So
can contemporary Hollywood produce content that strikes at these sensitive registers for boys? Like fuck it can. Boys also like third act overload. Ghostbusters starts off as a goofy premise that escalates into a madcap spectacle, where the Ghostbusters are cheered by enormous crowds to the rhythm of a killer theme song as they do battle with a gigantic Stay-Puft mascot who rampages through Manhattan and explodes after the hero's backpack lasers cross their streams to disintegrate it. The Blues Brothers begins as a small fetch quest, but by the third act, the two heroes are involved in an over-the-top car chase where police cruisers are crashing wildly with a constant blare of sirens, culminating with SWAT scaling the building the two characters are in, with helicopters hammering overhead and army vehicles in the barricaded streets below. Boys watching are nearly falling off the couch in delight at the comic escalation and anarchic excess. Can contemporary Hollywood create that kind of manic spirit of escalation and over?
I have not seen Starfleet Academy. I'll have to check that out. It seems like it is not like Star Trek of the past.
I've never been much of a Star Trek fan, especially the old ones in the 70s or 80s or whenever it was. I did like the reboot with those the ones that were done in 10 years ago or so. I kind of enjoyed those, but getting into the actual lore of it, I never got into.
Overload that makes boys ecstatic? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Boys are also incredibly keen on intelligent sci-fi fantasy, with a clear sense of the adults having conceived of and written scripts at least as much for themselves as for a young audience. Boys love the idea of adults writing with grown-up sensibilities and grown-up interests in science and ethics and technology. They feel drawn into something sophisticated and substantial. Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, revolving around a complex scientific device, with literary references to Moby Dick and A Tale of Two Cities.
P-Stock and chat #support Black.
And a ludicrous, snide Supreme Girl Boss Galadriel, who routinely sends up and bests men. Doctor Who, full of pizzazz, who's overly emotional and cries in literally every episode. Star Wars, where Supreme Girl Boss Rey gets ever more powerful without ever having any flaws. Marvel, with a lightweight Fantastic Four and morally empty Girl Boss in Ironheart. And DC, with a lightweight Superman who is often self-deprecating and high-strung. Or Star Trek Starfleet Academy, where a group of overweight or eccentric or lesbian women run the show and lecture a new generation of hyper-diverse and tedious cadets. Disney has even slowly come to realize it has lost this huge...
Disney has come to realize this, that they've lost a huge, and he's going to get into that. Dr. Thunder is about to speak, but I actually enjoyed A Predator Badlands. I thought it was a very, very well done movie. Just because they did have a female lead in there, I think that people are dumping too much on it. But I thought that, as I did in my take on it, that there's a lot that men could have gleaned from that.
Demographic, releasing a memo asking how it can appeal to boys again. Too late. Many have already turned to gaming and anime, and they're not especially interested in being lured back. You're done fucked up. You shit the bed. You screwed the pooch. You screwed the pooch anally, so that the pooch's slackened sphincter caused it to also shit the bed.
Pause.
Heavily.
Pause. It's a family show. Easy now.
But here's the thing.
What's happening, Barry Hamilton?
If this were only about ideology, some mix of wanting to empower female characters and give agency and visibility to diverse groups, spiked with some muddled, discredited notions about social constructivism and gender, or even some attitudinal thing about the contemporary world, that would be bad enough. But the problems run much deeper. It's developmental. Modern writers' rooms are now staffed by people whose imaginations aren't able to create the kinds of stories boys once devoured and obsessed over. Many of the people now tasked with writing spectacle, danger, myth, and power fantasy didn't grow up rehearsing those things in play. Earlier generations performed imagination, daily, physically, socially, recklessly. They built worlds with whatever was to hand. Action figures, Legos, sticks, bikes, rooftops, skate ramps.
So now this would go into what he's talking about here. This would go into going outside, playing with your friends, playing, with swords, pretending to be Jedi or knights, or building forts and playing war and whatever else. So if they're not doing that, and if you did it by yourself with toys, using your imagination, this is his argument. His argument is if they did more of that, then they would grow up and become the writers who would be able to push the type of narrative that boys want to see. Because they're not doing that, this is a problem. And they're being filled, and this is going to be important when I play the next video here, the main event. But because what he's talking about here, the next lady I'm going to show is going to demonstrate everything that this guy's talking about.
Back gardens, creeks, abandoned lots. Characters died and returned. Factions formed and dissolved. Toy brands crossed over. IPs were mishmashed. Narrative coherence morphed with imaginative drive. And this imagination was fused with exertion, danger, and consequence. Running, climbing, falling, bruising, mastering fear. Adrenaline didn't arrive through a screen, it arrived through the body. Decades of research shows this isn't just nostalgia talking. For the newer generation, that kind of play has diminished. Unscheduled outdoor play steadily gave way to structured, adult-regulated activities and indoor sedentary alternatives. Children now spend far more hours engaging with...
And look at this lady on the screen here, Kathleen Kennedy. She's going to be very prominent in a minute here.
Screens than wandering woods, building forts, or chasing friends through fields. Screens are not just another toy. They deliver immediate, externally supplied worlds with rules and narratives already defined. In unstructured play, the child must invent the world, the rules, the characters, the conflicts, and the stakes. Screens provide sensory stimulation and feedback, but they reduce the cognitive burden of creation itself. Even when...
Y'all hit the like button. Hit the like button. Let's get some more people in here. Hit the like button.
When digital games have immersive environments, and many do, they often function like highly engineered reward loops. Anticipation.
Doc, I enjoy your content. Keep.
Thank you for that support watching.
Reset. Designers aim to keep the players engaged, not thinking in gaps. There is rich evidence in game design research that many platforms are optimized to prolong engagement by creating habits of consumption rather than patterns of self-generated invention. The imagination that built worlds from sticks and figurines did so under conditions of delay and uncertainty. You didn't know what would happen next until you made it happen. That's where long, sustained narrative thinking begins, holding an imaginary world in your head for hours, days, or weeks. That's proto-writing. That's world building. With modern screen immersion, the imaginative load is reduced. Children consume narrative. They don't produce it in their own minds. It's just not possible that people could grow up with all that shit and not have it affect their raw compositional and imaginative instincts to at least some extent.
I'm gonna leave it off right there because I want to get to the main event. But that's kind of what this brother was saying. And shout out to Dr. Thunder for highlighting that. Go over to his channel and finish watching the rest of that. But I wanted to get into, because this might be a little bit lengthy, I wanted to get into what this next video here, and what I wanted to talk about is going to be a little bit of that. So the lady that I showed out you before, is going to be in the center here. I don't know if you guys can see my hover there. That's Kathleen Kennedy. The name of this feed is or show is Kathleen Kennedy stepping down from Star Wars, Lucasfilm reaction and breakdown. This is a lady beyond the trailer. Her name is Grace Randolph. She's got almost 1 million subs, and she has struggled with the concept that we're going to talk about here. She has struggled mightily with this concept because she is now recognizing that the damage that was done by Kathleen Kennedy because of her feminist views and takes and who they filled the writer's room with have destroyed very, very well thought out, well established intellectual properties, aka the MCU, now called the MCU. It's not really called that, people just call it that. And Star Wars, those two intellectual properties, which were huge among boys because of the creative processes that that other narrator was speaking about, other show was talking about. And when you fill up this environment with people who think drastically different from the target audience, you end up with a bunch of garbage. In all honesty, you end up with a bunch of garbage. There's no other way to say it. Grace Randolph has covered this, and she struggles. She struggles to defend what these people who have been in these positions have done. I've seen her struggle when she reviewed The Acolyte. I saw her struggle when she reviewed She-Hulk, and a couple of other shows. And my kids always like, why do you watch this lady? She makes you so mad. I think, first of all, I think she's entertaining. She seems to know her stuff as far as I guess she went to film school or whatever, so she knows what she's looking at. And I know that she is very much I think she would call herself a feminist. And she also argues for representation. She's all about representation, and we need to find a way to have a greater deal of representation across the board from all different races, thought processes, men and women, etc. But she's also in this breakdown, she is really struggling. You got to read between the lines. Some of you won't have to read between the lines because she's going to outright say it. She's gonna say it, that a lot of this stuff was just absolutely big mistakes by this group. Let me say hello to some more people here. Can I imagine Tyler Perry producing content for boys? It's a mess. He's part of the problem. Yeah. What's good, Chaos Rain? What's up, Rhonda? You guys make sure you hit the chat. Well, you can hit the super chat, definitely. And you can also hit the thumbs up there as well. All right, so this is Kathleen Kennedy she was over I believe Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and I think she had a high position in Disney. She talks about it. I'm not going to go through all that because I don't want to make this video any longer, but you can go over and watch the extent of it. So what she does is she sets this stuff up in different markers here, and I want to start it off with the red arrow there. And the first part is you can see the witch is dead. That obviously is a reference to the movie what's that movie? Wizard of Oz, that reference. So the witch is dead because people could not stand with Kathleen Kennedy and her vision of the future was doing to the intellectual properties that I talked about. So they're saying they're glad that she was dead. She also talks about the timing that they told everyone that they fired her on Thursday or Friday, or I think they fired her on Friday, which nobody really pays attention. And she talked about some upcoming things that people are very concerned about, Mandalorian and Starfighter. She talked about her $1 billion film, which was I think it was the Rebels. What was that? Rebel Moon or not Rebel Moon? What was that? I can't even think of it. Anyway, she talks about that. And then she blames some stuff on Bob Iger, who's over Disney. And we're going to start off where she gives some blame to Bob Iger. So here we go. We'll listen to her talk about, and just listen to the language that she's saying and how she struggles to get through all this.
So there's that. Then I want to also point out, I have a lot of respect for Bob Iger. I think Bob Iger's done a lot for Disney. He built it into the Death Star that it is today. And it's incredibly powerful, and it's really the only one who can go toe to toe with Netflix. So Disney, and they keep winning. No matter what anybody says about Disney, every single year they manage by the end of the year to be on top. But I do think it's a little sketchy that he consistently does not get any of the blame for some of the mistakes that are very much his fault. Bob Chapek was his idea, and it was his idea to have somebody be the co-head of the studio that didn't get to do any of the fun stuff. And he not only picked Kathleen Kennedy, but he insisted on redoing A New Hope with The Force Awakens. And he's the one who said he didn't want to do the Ben Solo movie.
All of that was terrible. They were all terrible. And he's right not to do the Ben Solo movie. We don't want Ben Solo.
So I really feel that, really hurting Star Wars was a group effort. I think Kathleen Kennedy, the buck stops with her because she was the head of Lucasfilm. But I think, it's not totally fair to just totally lay it on her.
So Lucasfilm is responsible for all the Star Wars intellectual properties or whatever comes off with that. They got, TV shows, I guess the Solo movie. There's a new TV show coming out about Darth Maul. Really excited about that. I just hope they don't mess it up. So this is what she was over, and just that whole Rey Skywalker nonsense, just absolute garbage.
Her feet. So there's that issue, right? Now, she did work very hard to bring in a new audience, which I think is great. I love how she worked to, I didn't like how she did it, to be clear. I think that the idea was a good one, and I think there were glimmers of hope where people felt nice. I think Rey was a nice idea, but really horribly executed.
It wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a good idea.
I think that the Acolyte was really great until it got absolutely horrible and indefensible.
I agree with that. I enjoyed the Acolyte till, well, I didn't say I enjoy it, but it was okay. It wasn't as horrible as everyone said, but like episode 3 or 4, it just really, really went off the rails. Really went off the rails.
And she did bring a lot of different people into Star Wars and made a lot of different people feel that they could be welcome in Star Wars. But then she kept getting in her own way. I think right off the bat, it was really bad that Finn was advertised as a lot of you are mentioning Finn. Finn was advertised as a Jedi, somebody who was going to become a Jedi. And then they turned him into a janitor.
So if you're not familiar with any of that, Finn was what's his name? John Boyega, black dude. So when we're watching the ads for it, this is what she's talking about. When we're watching the ads for it, we all thought this dude's going to pick up the lightsaber and discover his inner strength, his inner Jedi, his inner connection to the Force. Nope. So that was a mistake. That was a mistake. That turned a lot of people off, particularly people of color. We were all really, really disappointed in that.
And then they also friend zoned him with Rey, which was really odd.
And he couldn't even get the girl at the end.
It was just very bizarre, to do that to him. He didn't handle it very well, but he's not the one who started it. So, but again, there's this was just, it was just spiraling out of control right from the start. But I think a lot of people are very grateful for what she, I think that she has her supporters. I think that she positioned herself as kind of being against the toxic trolls. But at the same time, I believe that Kathleen Kennedy is responsible for giving them the power that they have today.
I want you to really, really pay attention to how she's struggling to get through this, because she knows it's a mess, but she wants to stand up for women, and she wants to stand up for women who are directors and executive positions. And I'm not, believe me, I'm not saying that women can't do it, but you have to understand the audience. That's the point. You have to understand that. You have to understand the audience. That's why I read the other stuff, and that's why I played the other stuff. You have to understand, if you want to appeal to boys, and if you want to appeal to Star Wars fans, you have to give them what they want. And it's going to become more clear. They totally disregarded everything that the fans wanted. That's the issue. So I'm not saying women can't do it, but I'm saying you got to do it. Now imagine, flip the script here. Imagine the Barbie movie. The next Barbie movie 2 is directed by a man, and he says, forget what these ladies want. We're going to put in action guns and this and that and the other. Completely against, forgetting everything that made Barbie, the first one, $1 billion movie, completely ignoring that and going in a completely different direction. That's what Kathleen Kennedy was intentionally doing. And it's bizarre that she would do that. Hey, Lorelei. Hey, Dr. Dunbar, welcome.
I think she handled the trolls very poorly. And I think that if she had handled them better and had been a little bit more nuanced, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are today. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But yeah, I do have to say, now this is an interesting situation, okay? Rogue One and Andor, well, of course, they're really Tony Gilroy's work. She hired Tony Gilroy. She oversaw this. And this was, I think, the one example of where Kathleen Kennedy's dream for Star Wars came true.
Now, I really enjoyed Rogue One. I think it's probably, don't kill me for this, I think it's probably the best Star Wars movie ever, Rogue One. I think Rogue One was absolutely phenomenal.
Diversity, current events reflected in Star Wars. What was accomplished here was incredible. And I do think that she deserves credit for that. This was an example of, I think this is what she wanted to do.
I think you're right, accidentally. She had to suck it up. She had to suck it up.
And at least she got this. I mean, I think that she can always be proud of what she accomplished with these 2 projects. Although I think that this is also a perfect example of why she ultimately failed. Amy Poehler won Best Podcast on Sunday at the Golden Globes. And at the same time, Andor was only nominated for a few things and did not win anything. And somebody brought this to my attention. I hadn't seen this before, but Amy Poehler at one point had Andy Samberg on her podcast, and she asked him what he was watching. And he said he had just finished Andor. And Amy Poehler was really dismissive of it because it was Star Wars. She turned it into a joke and was like, I'm not going to watch that.
Hey, that's exactly proving my point. Some ladies are not interested in this. They're just not interested in it. So why would you give it to them? Why would you give them this as an intellectual property? Why would you try to get them into it? And that's the problem that Kathleen Kennedy and others that she hired and who had her vision were trying to get people like Amy Poehler into this environment. Why would you do that? I think the WNBA is probably having the same problems, right? Most women who watch basketball watch the guys. There's a huge NFL arena fandom of ladies. They're not watching the ladies football leagues. They're not watching the WNBA for whatever reason. They got to figure it out amongst themselves, but they're not watching it. So to continue to try to pull in those types of people for whatever reason, it just isn't working. And now they're talking about doing a lockout. So, I mean, that's something they got to figure out. Maybe the ladies who do watch those sports, particularly NFL and the NBA and NFL, really like masculine men, big, strong, hulky, masculine men beating on each other, hitting each other, performing the moves. Maybe they just really like to watch that. So trying to appeal to an audience that isn't there isn't working. And in the meantime, they're killing what people do want to watch.
And it was such a dismissive, horrible way to treat. I mean, it was just, she was channeling Kathleen Kennedy. I thought Amy Poehler is the fan that Kathleen Kennedy went after. And that fan, for the most part, has no interest in Star Wars. Just as is the same problem we're going to discuss that Marvel has gotten itself into. But Kathleen Kennedy was chasing the Amy Poehlers of the world, And a lot of them had no interest and never would. The fact that Amy Poehler, I hope she feels foolish that she would dismiss Andor season 2. By the way, I thought Andor season 1 was all over the place and half of it was unwatchable, but I still gave Andor season 2 the benefit of the doubt. And while that had a little bit of a rocky patch in there, I do feel that overall it was one of the most incredible things ever made, especially in France.
People keep telling me that I got to watch Andor. I have not had time to sit down there and binge watch it, but I will get to it soon. I hope y'all are not fooling me. Every time people tell me to watch something, I end up not liking it. People loved, what was that movie? Moon Knight. I hated it. I hated it. I don't think I've liked any Marvel show. Any Marvel show I have not liked. The best one was one about Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was the best one, and even that I don't think was good. So, all right, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. I'll check it out. People keep telling me that. I'm so skeptical because I don't like any of this stuff. So
franchise work, and it's just really incredible. And it's embarrassing for women. This whole thing is embarrassing for women. We're gonna get to that.
Look at her. Look at her struggle. Look at her facial expressions. She is struggling. She knows it's bad. She knows it's bad. The guys want certain things. There's a certain audience that likes certain things, and this is what we want to watch. This is what we want to watch. We don't want to watch this other stuff. We don't want to watch it. Look at her facial expression. I'm going to play that again here.
The fact is embarrassing work. I do feel that overall it was one of the most incredible things ever made, especially in franchise work. And it's just really incredible. And it's embarrassing for women. This whole thing is embarrassing for women. We're going to get to that. But, the fact that Amy Poehler would do that and that Kathleen Kennedy did these things, it has created a situation where people feel this is what all women are like. And it's really bad. It's really bad. Okay. All right. So next. I think the worst thing that Kathleen Kennedy did was how she was dismissive of the original audience. This was just so, Nia DaCosta is doing a wonderful job. I want to point this out with 28 years later, the Bone Temple this weekend. Not a female-centric project whatsoever. Very male-centric, in fact. Does not have any feminism on it at all. And she's just knocking it out of the park. I mean, what Nia DaCosta is the path forward. That's
important. Give the audience what they want. And here's a woman doing it. So it can be done. Just know what your audience is looking for. I did watch the first episode of Andor and I thought it was slow. That's why I didn't continue it, but I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a chance. Star Wars is a boy brand, right? Give the people what they want. It's not hard. It's not hard.
Very exciting to me. So that is exciting. I really would like to see that happen. All right, so back to Kathleen Kennedy. It was a problem from the start. She poisoned the well from the very beginning with two things that she did right out of the gate. She went on a campaign where she said the Force is female. The Force is for everybody. Why on earth would you limit your audience and push anybody out of the tent?
I agree with you, Independence. Mandalorian was good. The first season. The first season was good. I will give you that. The Mandalorian first season was good. The second season I thought fell off. And was there a third season? I think there is one, and I didn't watch it. I am looking forward to the movie, but I didn't watch the third season, if there was one. And I didn't enjoy season 2. I didn't. So, but the first one was definitely very good. You're right about that.
4-quadrant movie, blockbuster. The Force is for anyone. That is for everybody. Why on earth would you limit your audience and push anybody out of the tent? 4-quadrant movie, blockbuster. The Force is for anyone. That is what you want, because just like you want anyone to buy a ticket. This was a horrible thing to do, and I think that it would have been better for her to say, we want to have everyone in the tent. The Force is for everyone. We want everybody to come in here. It's interesting that you bring up both.
We talk about, she's not going to mention this, and I'm going to mention this, right? So this is the problem with John Boyega's Finn character. There's a lot of white supremacists didn't like the fact that he might be a Jedi. So a lot of them didn't want to see it because the Jedi are thoughtful and whatever else they think about, their superiority or whatever. Thoughtful, passionate, in control, whatever, and they just don't like to see that. So Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. She ruined it. She's talking, she's gonna mention it. She's getting to it. This lady came in there and just messed everything all up. So but yeah, and that's a problem that a lot of black folks had with Finn not being a Jedi, is because we want to be portrayed as more than just brutes, right? Back in the days, any video game or any intellectual property, either the black dude died or he was some big dumb brute who carried the big heavy equipment, not a very thoughtful, critical thinker, dealing with strategy. And that's what we want to see from our people. And Dr. Tia San Johnson often talks about this was the problem with the Black Panther movie, the first one, which was good. But the problem is that they took his intellect away from him and gave it to Shuri. And we want to see black men who are intellectual, whether it's Finn, whether it's T'Challa, or whatever. That's what we want to see. And we were all very much disappointed in that. But we can't expect other people to do it for us. Although Ryan Coogler really, he really should have pushed that, or he wrote the movie. So how he missed that, I don't know. But Ryan Coogler wrote Black Panther, I should say. All right, so the Force is female here. Continue on.
Barbie atmosphere because Greta Gerwig worked very hard to bring men into the tent. She told Ken's story. She did a beautiful story about men's insecurity sometimes, especially with women. And the Force is for everyone. We want everybody to come in here. It's interesting that you bring up Barbie atmosphere because Greta Gerwig worked very hard to bring men into the tent. She told Ken's story. She did a beautiful story about men's insecurity sometimes, especially with women. And she told a beautiful story and had that great song about how men should support each other. So I think that's incredible. And that's right, Ken. I don't know if did he win the Oscar? I don't think he did. He was nominated and he performed, but Ken was really great. And I think, that's what Star Wars, that's the direction it should have gone in, but reversed, women being the Ken. Then she had a horrible quote. Now, I think she was upset because she was dealing with toxic fans. Okay. But she said, Star Wars doesn't need the original fans. Don't do us any favors. We're not going to pander to you. Oh my God.
Crazy. She wants all new fans, a fandom that doesn't exist. She wants to make them up. It's crazy to say this. Crazy.
Okay. But she said, Star Wars doesn't need the original fans. Don't do us any favors. We're not going to pander to you. Oh my God. It was such a horrible thing to say. I think that was the end. And I don't think you can recover from that. I mean, you could flat out apologize, but that was just a horrible thing to say. People who built Star Wars into what it was. And sure enough, they were able to also tear it down. So it was a really bad thing to say that. It was just, I don't know why you would dismiss your fans like that. It's just such a crazy business decision. So that was really bad. It was really bad. Now let's talk about the damage done. The damage is like beyond Star Wars. But I think like, as I've discussed on I've been discussing for a while now, the problems of Star Wars have spread like the plague to other franchises, right? Marvel, although of course Marvel is pulling off of Marvel Now, which was, a failure even back then. So we were all like, why would you copy something that failed horribly? And also, again, why would you copy what Star Wars was doing? Because I think Star Wars, the problem is that Star Wars was still making $1 billion. And so I think a lot of executives were like, well, it's okay. You don't understand. It's delayed. It's a delayed reaction,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a delayed reaction. People were just going because it was that movie until they figure out just this crap. I don't agree. I don't think the Book of Boba Fett was good. I don't think it was. I mean, maybe the real actual book, but the story of Boba Fett was I thought was terrible. So this is a delayed reaction. I agree with that. Y'all make sure you hit the like button. And same thing, as a 80s kid, what they did to Transformers, horrible. And they tried. Bumblebee was actually very good. They tried to fix Bumblebee. And even Transformers 1, the cartoon, was good. But what they did, they just mess up these intellectual properties because they have no investment. So you can't blame that on feminism, but people who don't get the product. And I was really, really mad. I was looking forward to those movies. Terrible. I didn't even see the last two. After Dark in the Moon, I'm like, I'm not watching any more of these movies. Michael Bay was trash.
It's like, you just don't understand. It's like, you're like The Walking Dead. Like you don't know that things are falling apart and the floor underneath you is deteriorating. So I think Marvel and DC followed her down the rabbit hole and are dealing with a very similar situation. It's funny, Wanda's attorney, you bring up Marvel. I think that a lot of the films that Marvel made in 2025 feel very much like the Star Wars movies that Kathleen Kennedy was pushing. So that's a really big problem. The South Park comedy.
Were there any movies in 2025? I don't know. But certainly that whole Phase 4, I don't like anything. I don't think I liked anything in Phase 4 or 5 or whatever it was. Only good movie since Endgame was Spider-Man. All the other things were Shang-Chi was okay. I didn't like Doctor Strange 2. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like any of it.
And Terry. South Park got her. They got her. South Park is very aggressive, but South Park goes for everybody. And I don't like the way they phrased it. I think it's derogatory towards diverse representation. And I think
the phrasing that she didn't like was they said, throw a chick in it. I think make her gay or make her bi or lesbian or something like that. It's something like that. I'm not going to pull the phrase, but that's what they said. And it went viral, and people were very they could identify with what she was saying. So, and they got her a couple of times, actually.
It's insulting to, again, women and audiences of color and LGBTQ audiences. But Kathleen Kennedy put us in that situation. She put us in this position. And it was just really bad what happened with South Park. And it's become a rallying cry that people bring up all the time. And it's just, never give the opposition ammunition against you. And so that was really bad. Really, really bad. It's like when Dwayne Johnson said the hierarchy of the DC universe is about to change. These things will never go away. They will always be a part of these people's legacy. Then having an agenda. We were talking earlier about the difference between Greta Gerwig and Phoebe Waller-Bridge and why one is accepted and one isn't by most general audiences. And one of the things we came up with was that Phoebe Waller-Bridge became somebody who really had an agenda, whereas Greta Gerwig was really just trying to tell a story and just would let it unfold and you make of it what you will. I think, it's not preachy. It's not condescending. And I think Kathleen Kennedy really inserted agenda. Bob Iger himself said that after he left Disney, they created a problem over there of message first, story second. And Kathleen Kennedy, I think, is one of those people. Now, one of the things that I feel really bad about is the damage that was done to female executives and creatives. Nobody trusts female executives and creatives, particularly fans, because of Kathleen Kennedy, which is really unfair. We went from a situation.
And that is crazy that people would stop trusting them because of that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's a fair assessment. I don't think people should think like that. But unfortunately, this is the real world, and ladies are still having a hard time breaking into these industries. And you don't need this type of negative. They don't need this type of negative publicity. But the things that she said and things that she did and the agenda that she had really just messed it up.
Where Sherry Lansing became one of the first women. I think she was the first woman to run a studio, and women were making significant gains in the executive space. And there are women who can do a wonderful job. Donna Langley, that's right, Kay Walton. Donna Langley over at Universal is running the heck out of that studio. Pam Abdi at Warner Brothers is doing a fantastic job. Amy Pascal has done a wonderful job with Spider-Man, and also with Greta Gerwig. Little Women, she's produced some absolutely wonderful things. Jack Schaefer, that's correct. Jack Schaefer is another great example. Shonda Rhimes is in a more female-specific space, but she's a very successful producer. But I'm talking about in spaces that are typically male. That's what we're really talking about. There's always been successful women in female spaces. And that's right. Thank you, Kay Walton. Amy Pascal just got Bond. And no one was upset about it when she did. Talk about a turnaround. When Amy Pascal signed on to James Bond with David Heyman, everyone said, that's fantastic. Isn't that exciting? That's really, really great. I don't know about Gillian Hurd. Gillian Hurd, I think, is a little bit more of like Kathleen Kennedy is. I don't know how much of a creative executive that she is. And also, as I said, Nia DaCosta. She's not an executive, but female. And also, by the way, I just talked about the new Night of the Seven Kingdoms show, which is all about men and white men. but there are both women and diverse people who worked, and LGBTQ people who worked on that show and did a wonderful job telling the story of white men. I mean, same with 28 years later, The Bone Temple. It's mostly about white men, directed by a black woman who does an absolutely fantastic job. You know, so that
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
that's really, I think I just want to point out, you know, but still to this day, when a woman is hired, the toxic channels are like, oh my God, look out. And because of Kathleen Kennedy's track record, everybody gets a little nervous. And that's really bad. So there was a lot of damage done. Then female and LGBTQ fans versus male fans. Because Kathleen Kennedy didn't preach and set an example of togetherness, because she decided to fight with the toxic fans. Hollywood really shouldn't fight with toxic fans. Kill them with love, kill them with kindness. I really think it's a mistake to fight with these people. That's what they want you to do. What does Lisa Vanderpump always say? Don't roll in the mud with pigs because they love it and you'll just get dirty. One of my favorite quotes of all time. I love it. Lisa Vanderpump, words of Jesus.
I don't know if she said it, but that has been out there. But anyway.
Yes. Okay. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. But Kathleen Kennedy's created a situation where female and LGBTQ and also diverse fans were made to feel like they were against male fans. You know, like either only one of us can be in the space. Adam Sphere says, define toxic. You know what toxic is. Listen, I really don't like when, I mean, no offense, Adam Sphere. I know you're coming from a good place. You're a great member of this community, the BTT community, but everybody knows what toxic is. Toxic is when, you know, you won't let up on something, you know, so you say something once, then you move on. If you make 50 billion videos about it and you make an AI thing with the person crying and devastated, you're a hate channel. I mean, we all know who they are. When you don't offer an olive branch, when you don't offer a path forward, that is toxicity. You know, we can spot them a mile away. It's a whole industry, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
No, she's right about that. And sometimes I watch those guys. I watch a lot of those other YouTubers who are commenting on videos, and some of them are never, ever positive. They got a black lead. It's a diversity. If it's a woman lead, a woman director, this and that. She's right about that. She's definitely right about that. You got to stop with all that craziness.
It's really, really unfortunate. I mean, they make videos about me. I'm very aware of who they are. But, you know, I think that it would have been really, really nice if Kathleen Kennedy had tried to lead by example and said, why can't we all be in this space together? I think that would have been really great. And I think that she made male fans feel like female fans and diverse fans and LGBTQ fans were the enemy, when in fact, it should really be like, hey, we all want to be in here too, man. I mean, I want to tell you, and I talked about this with Barbie and Sinners and Wicked, the new fans, for the most part, I mean, there's always some bad actors, but for the most part, we come to these things with love. And we're like, I'm always reminded of Pauly Shore. I think it was like, in one of the early Pauly Shore movies, there's this funny gag where he wants to get into an elevator. And to be fair, nobody wants him in that elevator. And he says something so cute where he's like, I want to be in here too. And I always think of that. I thought that was so funny, you know? And that's what I think it should have been. You know, it's like, I think when he says that, you're like, oh, you can come in here, Pauly Shore. You know, like you can come in here. And I just think like, that's what I think. All right. Then she did huge damage to diverse talent in front of and behind the camera. Oh my God, the people whose careers she either hurt significantly or downright ruined. John Boyega, Kelly Marie Tran, Ryan Johnson, kind of, right? Although he really owned that as well.
I don't know what any of these people said. I know that John Boyega had a problem. I don't know what Michelle Tran, I think she was the woman that's supposed to be the love interest or something like that in the second movie. I'm not exactly sure what happened with that. I'm in the movies, but not to that extent. But I do know John Boyega really kind of crashed out over how he was treated, or Finn's character was treated.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Alden Ehrenreich, who played Han Solo, Moses Ingram, Naomi Ackie. She did get Naomi Ackie. I mean, being in a Star Wars movie should be a great job. That's right. The actress, I'm drawing a blank on the name, from The Acolyte. And she did a wonderful job, by the way. She was great. Amanda Stenberg, thank you. How about, oh my God, I'm blanking on the Acolyte names. Jodie Turner-Smith. Jodie Turner-Smith is fantastic. And she'll forever have to deal with a problem for that. Manny Jacinto. I mean, these are really talented people. Daisy Ridley. You know, like just so many people. So many people. Yeah, the guy from Squid Game, the lead guy.
So she messed up all these people's careers because she put out such crappy product. What are your thoughts on the He-Man trailer? Is it too early? And are we ready for a Thundercats movie? Listen, I've been ready for a Thundercats movie since whatever. Remember there was a reboot of a Thundercats show maybe like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I enjoyed it. It was only did one season. I enjoyed it. I don't know why they never did another season. But He-Man, I don't like the part about Earth. I don't like that. I wish that they would have just done something straight from Eternia. I don't like that particular part. Now he's got to go to Earth and get him. I think they should have stayed straight in Eternia. I would like to see a crossover, and I guess they did this in the comic books of He-Man and Superman. That universe, Marvel, the DC universe. I'd like to see that. I think it was a comic book. If you guys, I didn't read the comic book, but I saw somebody summarizing it where there was such a big problem that the DC Superman had turned bad, and they had to go get He-Man. They, being the other members of the Justice League, had to go get He-Man to help stop Superman. So I think that something like that would be great going in the future. Besides that, I think everything looked good. Idris Elba is playing Man-at-Arms, so I'll go watch it. I just didn't like the Earth component to it. I didn't like that. So I understand the new age still loves Sanford and Son. Why change the foundation? Yeah. What's up, High Vibe? What's up?
From Squid Game. Good luck him getting more work in Hollywood.
But you know what? They also messed up. Talk about messing things up. I talked about Transformers, how they messed that up. They also messed up G.I. Joe. Although Snake Eyes was pretty good. Snake Eyes was pretty good, but the first two G.I. Joe movies were terrible. Like, oh my God. It's horrible movies. So, we got investments in this stuff as kids, so, we're nerding out here, High Vibe. So to everyone else, this is a big nerdy show here, but
I mean, it's going to be tough for him now. So that's just like a lot of people. Adam Driver, I think, is okay. Oh yeah, Carrie Fisher. Oh my God, Carrie Fisher. That's right, the lady from The Matrix. Why did she only have one scene as a Jedi? Well, she had a couple.
That's not her name. Carrie Fisher's not her name. Lady Matrix. Carrie-Anne Moss. That's what she's thinking about. Carrie-Anne Moss, who was treated poorly in that movie. Like, why would you have this lady in the movie and then only give her one or two scenes? Crazy. It's like, what? This is Kathleen Kennedy. What are you doing?
In the flashbacks. But yeah, Carrie Fisher. Why didn't they make a movie with the original trio right away? That was just nuts. But yeah, pretty bad. So it's just like a lot of bodies in her wake. A lot of bodies. So really, really tough. All right, so who are they moving on to? Well, they're going with Dave Filoni and that woman on the far end there named Lin-Wen Brennan. And you might be like, who the heck is that? Well, she's a Lucasfilm executive. And I think it's surprising they decided to go with the Gun Safran route because I don't think that's working. I don't think the creatives are executives. They don't want to be executives. They're not good executives. Executives need to be able to say, no. Executives need to be able to say, you didn't make me enough money. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Lin-Wen Brennan is a badass. Maybe she'll go to Dave Filoni.
Yeah, I agree with that. Snake Eyes was always the best parts of the G.I. Joe movies. I gave him the solo movie. It was all right, though. Yeah, it was just all right. It was okay. It was the best of those three movies. It was the best of those three movies. But it just wasn't. But they had done so much damage to that. They had done so much damage. And even when they did Bumblebee, the first, 3 or 4 or whatever they were, Transformers movies were so bad by the time they got to Bumblebee, it's like, nobody wanted to see it. And it was definitely the best one. And Transformers 1 was extremely good. And really could have laid the foundation for a whole franchise going forward. But they decided not to do that again. And I'm really upset about that because it was just such a good movie.
No Dave Filoni. But I mean, I don't think it's a good thing that their jobs are split. I don't think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm a little nervous about this choice. I I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should have one person in charge. I think they should have a clear vision for the future. And I think it should be a movie executive, who's just a producer, who's not going to go off and want to work on their own projects, who just wants to tell a story, That's my concern with this. So yeah, it's weird. You're like, oh, why would you do that? I think there's a mistake already at DC and we're all hoping they undo that. So I don't think two executives is a good idea. Now let's talk about the Filoni-verse. Is the Filoni-verse the answer? I actually do not think that it is, with all due respect to Dave Filoni. So let me tell you about my own Filoni-verse journey. So when they went to Disney, they did a final season of the Clone Wars, and it was on Disney Plus. And everyone told me I must watch the big fight with Darth Maul and Ahsoka at the end. And I was like, okay. And I watched it and I was like, good God, that's brilliant. It was incredible. It really was amazing. I loved that. That was my introduction to the Filoni-verse. I tried to get into the Clone Wars beforehand. Couldn't do it. Although I have to say Dave Filoni did really save the prequels. They're still viewed pretty well today because of his work.
The prequels were good. They were better than what people said they were. Clone Wars were very good. The last season, before they did the final season, the last 1 or 2 seasons, they were running around with the witches and stuff on another planet. I'm like, what is going on here? It's very psychedelic. But my water here. Let me see. But the Clone Wars, I thought, was a very good franchise.
Then next, of course, The Mandalorian just called The Mandalorian. He did that. I'm sorry, Econostone. I'll try and get to your comment in a moment. Let me finish. I'm almost done. The Mandalorian with Jon Favreau was a big hit out of the gate. And I think that gave people a lot of confidence in Dave Filoni. But I do think that everything that's wrong with Star Wars, it's funny. It was like The Mandalorian is like everything that's wrong with Star Wars in a nutshell. Started out really strong, slowly eroded the more it became like Kathleen Kennedy's agenda, very agenda driven, to the end of the day where you were like, what are we doing here? Is this even Star Wars anymore? Although I do think there were still some great episodes in season 3. I really liked the ending of season 3.
Didn't even watch it because I thought it was going to be terrible. Didn't even watch it.
All right, so that turned out pretty well, at least at first. Then The Bad Batch came out, and people were like, I wanted stuff to cover, and you guys were like, oh, Dave Filoni's really good. And I started to really get into The Bad Batch, and I was like, this
Bad Batch I enjoyed.
is pretty good. And I started to really learn Star Wars lore. Up until that point, I had been a casual Star Wars fan. I didn't really know all the mythology. It's not like with comic books like Marvel and DC, where I really knew the history. But watching The Bad Batch, I started to be like, I'm kind of getting into this, right? And I started to learn about all the stuff that wasn't in the movies and the shows and learn all about that. A little bit like Game of Thrones. I started to really get into it. And then I watched a little show to prepare for Ahsoka called Star Wars Rebels. This is the best Star Wars content, in addition to Tony Gilroy's work, that I've ever seen. The lightsaber battles are incredible. I think the character work is really strong. I think it has great representation across the board with still strong male representation. That's how I feel very strongly that I want to see diverse representation, but not at the expense of male representation. Let's get everybody in here. Let's have a good time. And I really think this show is incredible. This is what made me all in on Star Wars. I really, really, really love it. I think it's incredible. I think that anyone, if you want to be converted into the Filoniverse, you should watch Star Wars Rebels. And I've yet to see any of the live action content at this level. This is the best. That's right. I don't care that they killed off Kanan Jarrus in the series. Fine. If they can bring back the Emperor, do a prequel show, I don't care. Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger are my favorite Jedi. And I'm excited for what's going to happen with Ezra going forward. I was a little disappointed he didn't have more of a chance to shine, but at least they nailed the casting. Really tremendous stuff here.
I definitely agree that the live action stuff is nowhere near Rebels, Bad Batch, or Clone Wars. I mean, not even, obviously they can do more with CGI and all that, but just like the pace, the acting is just terrible. The pace and the acting was just terrible. No problem, Lamar, man. We've been talking about Star Wars here, brother. And how this lady messed it up. Let's see. The Mandalorian was good and then went sideways when Jack Black and Lizzo had a cameo. I believe it. And I think that's why I actually didn't watch it, because I saw the commercials and saw their cameos. I know where this is going. I didn't even watch it. That's exactly why I didn't watch it. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. Clone Wars was good and has memorable moments. My favorite was about the father and the siblings of the light and the dark side of the force. That's when they were on an alien planet, right? Maybe I was just spacing out. I'm like, what is this? um, so I didn't appreciate that. Ahsoka wasn't Ahsoka, I wish that they would have done differently with her in her show. They're doing a season 2, which I'm surprised about. Um, but Ahsoka, the show was slow pacing, and that Jedi was a great the Sith Lord or whatever he was, whatever his title was. I don't think it was a Sith. Was he a Sith or he was? I can't remember his name. The actor died in real life, so they can't do him again. But he was really really great. So yeah, that's why I did it, man. But she just, this lady messed it all up, man. So, yeah, Father and Sibling, like, I gotta watch that again. Uh, Baller Skull, yeah, 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 that dude, Ball and Skull, yeah, 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 yeah. The actor died in real life. He was a great Jedi. I mean, a Jedi Sith. Was he a Sith or is he an Inquisitor? I can't remember. Anyway, he was. I really enjoyed his character. I really, really enjoyed his character. Yeah, need to catch up on Andor. Yeah, me too. I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. I tried to watch it one day. I thought the first episode was so slow. I never watched it again, but I will binge watch it. So
And Ahsoka is a wonderful female Jedi, by the way. So let's talk about Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a mixed bag. I don't know why Ahsoka got so dour when she got older, but I think it was a bad choice, right? Like, she was really fun and had a lot of energy when everybody liked the character. But then for some reason, when she got older, they were like, now she's just a giant wet blanket. And that's frustrating.
well, she obviously didn't watch the story because they told you why. They told you why Ahsoka got all messed up because the Jedi Council had turned her back on her. They accused her and they didn't believe her. That's why she got all. They recast him. I guess so. I feel like I entered into the barbershop chat. Yeah, this is a totally geeking out episode here. Yeah. Yeah, they recast him. Yeah, yeah.
Frustrating to me because that's so often how women are portrayed. I don't like women having to be the mothers of the group. Even in Peter Pan, who looks after the Lost Boys and tells them it's time to go to bed, Wendy. I hate that. I want women to be. That's why everyone loves K-pop Demon Hunters. Those women want to stay up and break the rules too. That's why that's such a big hit. Women want to be having fun as well. That's the reason that Evangeline Lilly's Wasp is such a big suckfest, because she's always telling people what to do and she's stuck being the mom. And I really hate that. I hate it. I hate it so much. And so they kind of did that to Ahsoka, even though they have excellent casting in Rosario Dawson. And by the way, Rosario Dawson can be so much fun. So it's weird they would put her personality in a box. I do love Alien Earth. Wendy is not the mom in that series. But that's a fair point, Tall. But they didn't momify Wendy. Wendy's like really badass on Alien.
I think they did kind of mommify her. I think they did. I think they kind of did mommify Wendy in Alien Earth, which I heard a lot of people didn't like. And she being Grace Randolph here said she liked the show, but the fans of the show were not, who watched this and comment on it, were not too keen on that. But I enjoyed Alien Earth, and I hope they do a second season.
Earth. Yeah, and Barbie was great with that as well. But one of the reasons that I bring up Ahsoka is that while people who love the Filoniverse were like, this is the way, I saw a large number of Star Wars fans who never got into the animation, who are fans from the original movies, who didn't like Ahsoka. And that made me nervous. I was like, oh no, you fractured your audience. And that's always a bad sign. One of the reasons
the reason they didn't like it is because, I would assume, is because if you didn't watch the cartoons, then you don't know why Ahsoka was the wet blanket that she's talking about. You got to watch the show. They tell you why. Again, they tell you why, because she ended up being I think she was almost arrested by the Jedi Council, and they didn't believe her. So she's like, you guys said F me, well, F you too. So just got into animation. Yeah, you got to check out those movies. Check out the Clone War movie, the Clone Wars seasons, like 5 seasons. The Bad Batch. I'm sure I'm missing something. Those, and in Star Wars Rebels. You watch those, you'll understand a lot, and this particularly about what happened to Ahsoka. So this lady looked like she stepped off a spaceship. Yeah, listen, You know, I'm not one of those guys, but her hair is always a mess. It's always a bird's nest. And she talks about that too. She's like, oh, you know, I gotta have my makeup right because guys talk about me. I don't know what you're doing with your hair. I don't know what you're doing with your hair, but whatever you're doing it looks like that all the time. And this is one of the more better episodes. It's always, always, always. Just made season 2, second season of what? Steph is dope. What's up? Dr. L knows ball. I'm impressed. You talking about Ballin? What was his name? Ballin Skull? Ballin Skull? That was my man. I love that dude. He was one of the best Sith I've ever seen. Sith, or was he a Sith or an Inquisitor? I can't remember which he was. One of the best ones I've ever seen. He's cool, calm, collected. He handled himself. Him and Darth Maul, some of my favorites. You know, I'd like for them to do some of the old. I wish they would do some older stuff, some older, you know, 1,000 years ago. What's that term? You know, the first empire, whatever it was called. I wish they would do that. I really, really wish they would do that. Oh, copy. I got you. Copy. I understand. Alien and Predator movies are doing. I'm glad they really understand my fans. Yes, that last Predator movie was phenomenal. Do not mess it up. Balin. The Old Republic. Yes, that's what I want them to do. Some Old Republic stuff. That's what I want them to do. Some Old Republic stuff. Get some new characters in here. Some new Sith. Let's go before the rule of two. Let's talk about that stuff, right? Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to see. I can't believe that nobody's pushing for that. Like, if I was a producer, this is all on tap territory. Let's get into that. It's crazy. Crazy. Atticus the artist. Hey, I'm new here. I looked at your content and I like it. Plus this stream. Oh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. We in the building. Yeah, we nerds are in the building. Nerds are in the building. The Old Republic, man. I really, really wish that they would do some stuff like that, you know. But yeah, Balin was one of my favorites. Then I was really mad. You know, they killed Darth Maul, but then they brought him back. I wonder if that's even canon in the books. I mean, I don't even know. I don't read the books, so but I'd like to see that. And I hated Adam Driver's Sith Darth. What was his name? Y'all know. The one Ray was fighting. That was just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Darth Bane. Yeah, let's see some Darth Bane. Come on now. Right? And there was one Sith, female Sith, right? I think she had a whip. She had like a whip. Come on, man. Why you can't show us that? Old Republic and High Republic would be dope. Need a whole Mandalorian verse. Yes. Come on, now we're talking. That's what we need. Angela, Andy, and even Dr. L, coming from Philly. What's the weather supposed to be like in Philly? What are y'all expecting there? Can't be too far from here. I mean, we're just expecting snow, which I hope it just stays that way. What y'all expecting there? And are you prepared and staying warm? And we'll finish this off here. She's going to talk about this, and then she's going to take some questions and answers.
Marvel was so successful out of the gate was that everybody was on the same.
Yeah, Kylo Ren. Oh my God, he was such a disappointment. Oh my God, I've never seen a Sith Lord so unsure of himself. Come on, man, you're a Sith. Get it together.
Page for those first 10 years.
And then he couldn't beat a new Jedi. Just picked up the lightsaber yesterday. You can't beat a Jedi like that. Oh my God, that was so horrible. And that was all Kathleen Kennedy. It's all Kathleen Kennedy. What the heck? Who wrote this?
Everybody was on the same page. Large number of Star Wars fans who never got into the animation, who are fans from the original movies, who didn't like Ahsoka. That's
a Gen Z Sith. That's so true. Like, bro, man, what are you doing? The worst. 8 to 15 inches. Yeah, that's what we're expecting here. My daughter said 20, so I don't know what we're getting here. It's crazy, Gen Z said. That's a comment of the day right there. Mandalorian War, the big screen would be dope. Yeah, man. Come on, man. There's so much stuff to talk about in that universe.
And that made me nervous. I was like, oh no, you fractured your audience. And that's always a bad sign. One of the reasons that Marvel was so successful out of the gate was that everybody was on the same page. For those first 10 years, everybody was on the same page. And they unfortunately fractured their audience as well. You never want to fracture your audience. So some people really like the Filoni.
She said Marvel, right? First 10 years. Everybody loved the first 10 years. Then they do Endgame and it just went off the rails, right? Like, what's going on?
Is a bad sign. One of the reasons that Marvel was so successful out of the gate was that everybody was on the same page. For those first 10 years, everybody was on the same page. And they unfortunately fractured their audience as well. You never want to.
Yeah, they fractured their audience. Yeah, we were all over that when Finn was able to fight Kylo Ren. And then again, Rey picks up the lightsaber, never does it before. And just, come on, man. Come on. Come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing? These people, these Sith fights and Sith and Jedi fights are at the speed of light. And you got some dude with no force just taking this dude on. Come on, man. Or somebody picked up just discovered her Sith powers yesterday, and she's taking this dude out. Yeah. In the books, like all Sith, Kylo Ren was very vicious. Well, he was definitely Gen Z in it. Crazy. Yeah, I would love to see Sith swords. Yeah. They need to get these DEI hires out of the government in Hollywood. Absolutely.
Fracture your audience. So some people really like the Filoniverse. Some people don't. And that makes me nervous. That makes me very, very nervous. I guess I'll do a poll. I know you guys like a poll.
Oh, hold on a second here. Since I'm going to be snowed in, give me a movie nerd movie recommendation. First recommendation, I would say, is have you gone through all the first 10 years of Marvel? That would be my first nerd movie. I'm talking about watching them in order. The Marvel MCU, that would be my recommendation. The first 10 years, all the way up to Endgame. After that, you just watch Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars, I would say watch the prequels. Then what is it? What is it? Rogue One. I couldn't think of it. Watch the prequels, then Rogue One, then the last three, A New Hope and all that. Don't watch the last 3, 7, 8, and 9. Don't watch that. It was absolute trash. That's why Obi-Wan was amazing in fight scenes. Obi-Wan wasn't good. That show, I don't like him struggling either. The end when he fought Anakin again was good. The fight with I can't remember it. It wasn't the Empire Strikes Back, but it wasn't one where he killed Anakin or he fell in the lava, whatever that one. That was a great fight scene. That was probably, I'd say Rogue One was probably the best Star Wars movie, and then that movie, number 6 or whatever it is, was definitely the best. Yeah. Let's see. Stay safe, upcoming weather. Yeah, Rogue One was definitely step number one for me, and then the one where Anakin gets killed or falls into the lava. He says, "You were my brother. You're supposed to be the chosen one." Yeah. 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, that order. Yeah, watch that. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. Yes. That was a great one. Andor was good. I couldn't watch Obi-Wan. Tapped out at the first episode. I finished all of it, but I was like, man, what are they do? Again, what are they doing to these Jedi, man? What are they doing to these Jedi, man? So.
What do you want for Star Wars going forward? Filoniverse, Ben Solo, and then just all new direction.
All right, so we talked about that's a good question. What should people? We're all gonna be snowed in. Give us your suggestions for what nerds should binge watch over the weekend. This is nerd stuff, right? So I would my first thing is binge watch MCU and then Star Wars. Anything else I would say watch? Oh, I would aliens and Predator movies. Alien Predator movies. Darth Vader scene in Rogue One was epic at the end. Yes, it was epic. Oh my God, high vibe. Jesus. But you're the one that Kathleen Kennedy was trying to get. People who don't watch it. That was the whole beginning of the show. This is the one that Kathleen Kennedy, the producer there, the head of Lucasfilm, was trying to get people like high vibe. Let's see. Shame on you, brothers. Let's see. Fallout series. Okay, I haven't watched Fallout yet. Okay, I have to check that out. I gotta admit, I haven't watched Fallout. Tapping into the Unique Force. We said they were Gen Z Sith, and now they're tapping into the Unique Force. Andor season 1 was a bomb. Yes, I thought it was Return of the Jedi. Yes, that is Star Wars. Yes, you're right, high vibe. Yes. What other things there? We got Fallout. What other new nerd movies, things to watch?
I got to tell you, I think people sure are tired of that Skywalker family. If I hear more Skywalker stories, I'm just going to scream. Although Ben Solo is technically a Skywalker, but I don't. That's
Yeah. No more Skywalker. No more Skywalker. No more Ben Solos. Done with that. Done with that.
fine.
Big universe.
But for the most part, I'm like, good Lord, man, I can't take it anymore. Please tell a different story. There's other people in the world of Star Wars. So by the way, anyone who's watching can vote in the poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. Okay. Now, I think if I were hired to take over Star Wars, the very first thing I would do was greenlight this Ben Solo movie.
No.
Ta-da! Everybody's really excited about it. I think Adam Driver is very popular, and so is Steven Soderbergh with the new audience that you're trying to bring into Star Wars. But Kylo Ren is such a male-centric character. In some ways, he represents the angry men, which I think is fascinating, who are trying to love Star Wars. You know, I love that. I think that the battle within Kylo Ren, between Ben Solo and Kylo Ren, is what's going on with male Star Wars fans. I think that deep down, he's Ben Solo, and he loves everybody, and he wants to love Star Wars, right? But with Kylo Ren, he has the anger of what's been done to Star Wars. And so I think that the movie itself could be a healing journey for all of us.
No.
I like that. I think that would be great. I'll be some people. I mean, come on. We Loki killed people, and we all love Loki. I mean, he's very Loki coded down to the hair. I mean, it's a movie. Hey, Tariq. I just feel like, you know, and he's supposed to have died, which was what Bob Iger said. But I mean, the Emperor came back. I mean, like, they got so far that they actually wrote a screenplay, or at least did a pitch for it. And he has you know, he might have killed his dad, Maria, but Harrison Ford's Han Solo wanted to die. It was an act of mercy. The reason that, I mean, that's why I'm okay with it. Kylo Ren killed Han Solo because Harrison Ford wanted him to. That was his stipulation for returning. He said, I'll do one more movie, but you better kill me. Here you go. I don't think that should have been allowed.
There are multiple Star Wars books. Oh, another thing to binge watch, high vibe, is Game of Thrones. Now, I didn't think I would be into that either, but definitely binge watch Game of Thrones. You could, I would say, do House of the Dragon first, but Game of Thrones was a little bit better than that. So binge watch everything from Game of Thrones, like 5 or 6 seasons or something like that. Definitely. The last season was horrible, but definitely binge watch Game of Thrones. And there's multiple books about Star Wars. A non-Star Wars TV show to watch, Battlestar Galactica. I gotta watch that. I've heard that. I gotta watch that. I gotta get into that.
I would have been like, you don't get to dictate the future of Han Solo. Do you want this $30 million or not? That's what I would have said. Although apparently, based on that new story, Sean Connery turned down $30 million to be in Lord of the Rings, which is pretty funny. That's how much money he must have had off of James Bond. But yeah, So yeah, and Harrison Ford ended up coming back anyway. What a jerk. Although, I mean, I don't know. Harrison Ford's a crazy guy. I'm upset with how he's acted towards Star Wars all these years. Harrison Ford would not be famous if it was not for Star Wars. So his
There's only like 9 Star Wars movies. There are some TV shows if you really want to get into it, but it depends on what you like. Some people like far out futuristic, even though it's technically in the past type of stuff, and others like more knights and damsels in distress and old fashioned type of stuff. So whichever one you like, but I would definitely recommend both of those. Game of Thrones I really, really enjoy. I still watch it today. I still put it on today when I just kind of want to zone out.
disdain for the franchise really annoys me. But yeah, I just think that a Ben Solo movie would be the way to go. We can do other stuff too, but I mean, this thing's ready to go. So I'd be like, let's do it. Move ahead. And I think it would really be an olive branch to the fans who feel abandoned.
Yeah, no.
Give Tony Gilroy a piece of the Star Wars universe. I don't even know if that would be enough. I don't know how much he even likes Star Wars. And I have to tell you, at the end of the day, Andor only did okay. Rogue One made $1 billion though, so maybe. Coven of Hag says this is what's happening with God of War. It's really a difficult situation.
No, you guys excited about God of War? Anybody a video games fan here? My son was asking me about that today. I'm excited about it. I thought they were actually farther along with that. I thought they started shooting it. So, but they just, Star Wars Maul Shadow looks real good coming out in April. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Invincible got another trailer. I'm looking for that. Looking forward to that. They finally showed Thrag, Grand Emperor Thrag. I'm excited about that.
I still feel a big problem is that Hollywood does not like to go onto social media and doesn't understand it. I'd be like, you must embrace your enemy because they're not leaving. You can't make them go away. They are your fan base. They're the ones
That's binge worthy too. What is that? The Invincible series. It's 3 seasons out now, so that's binge worthy as well.
You need to buy a ticket, so you're stuck. So you're like, it's like when those you're handcuffed to them. You got to make it work. So there's just you're stuck. Male fans don't like Kylo. I bet I could make them like Kylo.
Okay. See, she don't get it. She still don't get it. Male fans don't like Kylo. That's everything we've been saying. We don't like Kylo Ren. Somebody told her in the chat, we don't like Kylo. She don't want to believe it. I can make him like him. No. He's channeling the eunuch force or Gen Z Sith. It's just terrible. No, Kylo Ren. We don't like that dude.
It's like, when those, you're handcuffed to them. You got to make it work. So there's just, you're stuck. Male fans don't like.
Game of Thrones. Gears of War would be a great series. A great series, especially if they started where everything came down and like started happening. That would be fantastic. Oh my God, that would be fantastic. We hate him. Who else? That Space Marines video game. That would be a good one too. That's almost just like Gears of War. That Space Marines video game. That would be a great one too. But the beginning stuff, like how all this stuff started happening, that's what I would like to see.
Kylo, I bet I could make him like Kylo. Okay, I'd be like, I think we can do it. Okay, so let me end the poll. Let's do a poll on Kylo Ren. Hold on. All right, 62% want an all-new direction, 22% want the Filoniverse, only 16% want Ben Solo. Uh-oh. All right, maybe we don't do the Ben Solo movie.
Yeah.
But let me see what you think of Kylo Ren.
She still don't get it.
Love him. Meh. I could like him. And then, no thank you. Anyone who's watching, by the way, again, can vote in the poll. Anyone who's watching, you can vote in this poll. All right, so let me go back here and answer some of the questions I might have missed. I think we can get to the Q&A section of this video.
All right, we'll leave it up there. So that's that. All right, so I just want to show this isn't, about that women can't do certain things, but when you introduce the feminist thinking talking points and have an agenda, that's where things start to go off the rails. And that's what happened to the Marvel MCU movies. This is what happened to Star Wars. That agenda, you got to know your fans and give the fans what they want. And even though she thinks that certain things could be a good idea. Kylo Ren would not. Kylo Ren is not it, you know. So and she understood that. If you go back and watch her stuff, and when she's talking about she does a week-to-week summary of She-Hulk, she really struggles to really put people onto you know, She-Hulk, because she understands it's a problem, and what they did in the writers' room was a problem, and she breaks it all down. She does a really good job. She does a fair job of understanding that this feminist message is not resonating with the core fans, with the core Marvel fans. And to make it even worse, not only are you alienating the core Marvel fans, but the people that you're going after don't like this type of stuff. So that's that. So yeah, that's it. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. You guys can always buy me some lunch there. I did appreciate this episode. A little bit of nerding out here, right? Sometimes we gotta let our hair down, right? Sometimes we gotta let our hair down here. Emergence Day, that would be epic. Yeah, that would be epic. Man, that would just be so fantastic. So fantastic to do. And they're talking about doing the God of War games. Anybody who here plays video games, and they're doing the same thing from the video game. I'm not happy about the storyline. If the storyline is they're still on a journey to bury the mother, I don't think that's going to do it. Unless they got to do completely different stuff than they did from the video game. Otherwise, it's like, we did this. That was the problem with The Last of Us. I played this video game. You did the same thing from the video games. Let's see. Thank you for joining the movie tonight. Let's see. Just do a movie about the Rule of Two movie or a series that get $1 billion. Yes. How they came to be about the Rule of Two, that would make a lot of money. That would make a lot of money. That would probably make $2 billion. How they stopped all the infighting and stuff. That would be fantastic. Emergence Day. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you guys. Yes, for the lunch bun. I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for that high vibe. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. All right, y'all. $4.99. Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You guys have a good night. Tomorrow is the last day for you guys to get warm or get your salt or make sure your snow blowers are working or whatever, or take a trip like Ted Cruz or do what you got to do. So I guess it's coming Sunday night. So y'all make sure you stay safe. I may do a show just to check in. I'd like to, you know, I do have a Patreon, man. If I could get people to join that, we could just sit here, watch some movies and just talk, you know. I think some YouTubers do that. I think that would be a great yeah, I think that'd be great. Make sure you guys get your stuff early. Whatever you need, get your food, charge up your electronics, have some books to read, candles, batteries, whatever you guys got to do. Now is the time to do it. This is supposed to be a bad one here. So my son is talking about coming to stay with me for a couple of days. You know, he wants to make sure I'm okay. And so I appreciate that. So we're gonna make it do what it do, so as long as my video games are working, I'm good. So I may do a show just to check on you guys and see how everything's going. So yeah, okay. I think I went and picked up some stuff today, so I should be good. I have plenty of food. So and my son is going shopping too, so bring some stuff that he likes. So we'll be all right. So you got one more day to get it done. So yeah, that's the big thing, right? Making sure the grid doesn't go down. So, and if it's 3 inches of ice, it's gonna be down for a while. It's gonna be down for a while. So, and listen, I always say this, right? It's because we had Hurricane Sandy was here, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And the internet, power went out, and then my power was on like the next day. But the internet was out for like a week. So I always, any movie I like, I buy. So people was like complaining because they couldn't access Netflix and stuff. I was sitting right in my house, popping new stuff, popping in my binge-worthy watching movies. So anything you like, you ought to go, you ought to get that. So that's my opinion. So all right, y'all. I will see you guys. Take care. I want to leave it off with that Gen Z comment if I can find it here. These dudes are Gen Z Sith. It's funny. The worst. I'm gonna leave it up in this comment. That was Gen Z talking about Kylo Ren and Gen Z Sith. Y'all take care. Much love and peace, y'all. Take care. Have a great night.